Nerdiest Prime.
Hi, and welcome to Nerdiest Prime. We are reviewing Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, and we're doing a double header, Episode 1, Episode 2 together. And we're joined once again by Jenny Johnson, and of course, Namir and Alan. And let's dive right in. I just said Namir and Alan. Namir and Alan. And we're going to dive right in, and let's start with episode 1. And Jenny, what are your first impressions?
Okay. First impressions. I liked how, there was some carryover from last season. It gave us just sort of a snapshot of where everyone was at this point. We see the time has passed. I enjoyed, I liked that it was like a caper, I liked sort of the energy of it and jumping right into some action and kind of, it was fun. Like, it was a fun episode.
It looks like it made you want to dance.
Yeah.
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 Okay, Alan.
This one was it was a fun action adventure romp. I had a few problems with it, story wise. I felt Pike being missing was a bit of a detriment because Anson Matt carries so much of this show. But it was fine. It was fun. It wasn't like a substantive, meaty episode, but it was just a fun action adventure.
Okay, I feel bad because I didn't like it, but I feel like I always don't like it, which is largely, I guess, true. But I had some issues with the pacing. I didn't think it felt like a first episode. We'll talk about the second episode, but it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. It felt like it was kind of there were pieces kind of missing out of it, which was a little bit strange. Lon really didn't have anything to do. I missed Anson Mount as Pike. He wasn't in the episode at all, and frankly, that's why I watched the show, because he's pretty awesome. And the Mbenga Nurse Chapel John Wick kind of fight scene that lasted like 8 to an hour long minutes. I was not a big fan of. It didn't feel right to me. So, there were pieces in there that I liked, but it didn't really hang together as a cohesive kind of story, and I just couldn't get over that.
I really liked this episode a lot. I thought episode 1 was fantastic. I think my only real complaint is that it kind of wraps it up too quickly at the end, which is very similar to episode 1 of season 1, where you have this great premise, kind of a caper situation as well. And really what it comes down to, and this is true for episode 2 as well, is that I really like this show, and so I'm on board. And so even though it does 3 threads, like stealing the Enterprise, or dealing with things that I've seen before, I'm still having a good time. And every time I go, well, it wasn't a perfect episode, then I go back and I go, but it was way better than Code of Honor, or it was way better than Hero Worship. And I love Star Trek: The Next Generation. It's like my favorite show ever. So there hasn't yet been a Strange New World episode that is as bad as some episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I love that show. So I like this show too.
How can you can't keep comparing everything to Code of Honor. Code of Honor is like the worst episode in all of Star Trek. It's just not fair. Like, compare it to something
that's
legitimate.
relatively
It's legitimate.
I'll compare it
I
to
don't
like
believe so.
Hero Worship or Violations in season 5. These are horrible episodes that I hope I never see ever again.
Shades of Grey. What a waste of airtime.
Even Shades of Grey is like a better episode than those episodes. But I'm saying there hasn't been any Strange New Worlds that's been that bad. Is there been any Strange New Worlds that's as good as Best of Both Worlds or Yes to the Enterprise? Alan would say yes, but I would say no.
Okay, but
I really loved that finale last year.
every season of Strange New Worlds only has 10 episodes, right? Like, so you're comparing it to a show where every season has like 22 episodes, right? So the sample sizes are different. So I don't think you can do that. I think if I were you, Lucas, I would compare it to nothing and just say, well, is it a good show or a good episode just on its own merits? But
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm having a good time. So, you just don't like that I like it.
I don't. I just want everybody to have the same opinion as me. That's
It's because you're secretly
That's legit.
dark.
I'm secretly pork. I might be. Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so let's talk about the kind of the reintroduction to all the characters, and basically the premise that in order to save Lahan, they have to steal the Enterprise. How do we feel about that? Let's start with Namir, since he likes to complain.
Well, I thought that was amazing. No, I didn't. I actually didn't like that at all. Yeah, like stealing the Enterprise, it's fine. I mean, it's kind of a cliche. They kind of did it pretty easily. I think we had talked about this a little bit, and Alan and I both kind of agreed that it didn't really make sense. Like, they just kind of stole the Enterprise, and then there was nothing that happened as a result of that. The Federation was just kind of like, okay, I guess they're stealing it. What should we do? Like, I don't know. Let's go do some admin. And that was kind of it. So
I don't disagree with that. I think I just don't care as much, if that makes sense.
It's like a Lucas response.
Yeah. Like, it's like, there are lots of valid criticisms. I just tend to be a pretty easy-going, my brain is so good at just coming up with the reasons why. Oh, well, this is, it just explains everything for me, and it's wonderful. Admiral April, he's like, hey, Spock, don't do that again. There was, clearly, like not even. It was just sort of like, bink. So, I agree that maybe there might have been some points missed in that respect.
I feel like that we that I think that there's been a lot of instances of the Enterprise being stolen or a ship being stolen. Like, it's a thing they've done a million times before, and I was like, how many times have they actually done it? They did it in 11001001.
Except they didn't steal it; the other guy stole it.
Right, but it's just like stealing.
It was
Enterprise.
stolen. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they stole the Defiant in the Defiant.
Right.
And am I missing what else? Alan and Q. That was the wrong time to take a gulp of water.
Well, no, I'm just thinking. I don't know if there is any more ship stealing.
So it's like three. It's like three.
They
but
stole
in
a
my mind,
ship
it's like,
in Picard.
I guess Picard season 3 technically they stole a ship.
And I'm pretty
They went
sure
rogue.
Kirk stole the Enterprise in the original series. I seem to remember some sort of trial.
Well,
Kirk was on
well,
trial.
Spock stole the Enterprise, I guess technically. He
did. He did steal the Enterprise. Yeah. So that's probably what this. Yeah.
And Data.
Yeah.
Data stole the Enterprise and Brothers.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
That's right.
Nice.
So you're right. It did happen a lot. So yeah, you're right. It's like a trope now. It's not even like.
Problem I had with it was the fact that there's no chase. Like they stole the, like in Deep Space Nine and Defiant, he stole the Defiant. They realized that there was no actual warp core breach, and then they went after him. Like, why did no one from Starbase 1 go after the Enterprise when they stole it? Like, clearly they thought there was a warp core breach. There was no warp core breach, and they just warp off to go find La'an. And I was like, should they send some ships after them? Like, oh my god, they're stealing our flagship. We should probably go and arrest them.
You know
But they
why?
did not.
It's because it just happens so often that they're just like, oh, I guess they're stealing it again.
Yeah, like, yeah.
It must have a good
Just
reason.
get a dry erase board, just wipe it
Yeah.
off. It's like days since last Starship theft. Now we're back to 0. So
Yeah,
a real
it
ongoing
was only
problem.
like one before.
In the in the process of trying to steal the ship, we get introduced the brand new crew member, who's going to be from what I hear, the engineer. I don't remember her name, but
Pelia.
what is it?
Pelia.
Pelia. So, what do we think about the introduction of a brand new character, Pelia? Let's start with Helen.
I liked her. Well, I like Carol Kane. She always brings a quirky energy to the characters she plays. And yeah, I think she's going to be a fun character with some mystery and intrigue. And, you know, she's going to probably keep the crew on their toes with her oddness, for lack of a better word. I like that in science fiction. I like an odd, quirky character, you know. So, you know, she seems like she's going to be a fun addition. I mean, it sucks that Hammer had to go for her to come in. I would have preferred to see somebody else, you know, make room for Pelia than losing Hammer. But, you know, let's get some Hammer, some feels.
Namir, what are your thoughts about this new character?
Well, first of all, Hammer could still be alive, Alan. So just, you know, don't give up the torch. It could he could come back. But I like Pelia. I think she's a great addition. Carol Kane is fantastic. She's been in a bunch of really awesome things. She's in one of my favorite movies, Scrooge. So you know she's great. I think she's going to be really, really interesting. I like that she's this weird new species, which I don't think it has ever been introduced before, right? Like
I don't think so.
What are they called? The Leviathans? The
Lanthanites?
Lanthanites, yeah.
The Lanthanites, yeah.
That sounds made up.
It's nice, yeah.
It's all made up, Lucas.
I don't.
Really.
Yeah, they don't actually exist in real life, Lucas.
I'm a lengthenite.
Mind you, Carol Kane could really be an alien because she's been an old lady for like 50, 60 years now, I feel like.
Yeah. with the same variation of an Eastern European accent. Which I don't know, like, is that her real voice or not?
I don't
right?
think so.
Oh,
I think
no.
it's just that's her a deliberate accent.
Yeah.
It's her acting style.
Yeah. And so, like, I like the character. I think she's interesting. I think she's going to have an interest. You know, hopefully they'll dedicate an episode to her, and then we'll find out a little bit more about her backstory. And
She'll have a dead son for sure. It'll be a tragic backstory. How do you feel about it? How about it, Jenny?
I really enjoyed her. I liked the sort of I liked the vibe. Like she just kind of wandered in and, you know, saw what was happening and was like, I'm in, this is great. And I appreciated the fact that at the end of the episode, they had kind of more of a grounding conversation with her and Spock. So she's not just a complete like goofball through the whole, like there's clearly more to her, you know, I mean, especially that reference to his mother.
That's like her whole deal is that she's just bored. And she just wants to hang out with them because they seem like they'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, which makes sense for her character, right? Because who knows how old she is. And so she's always looking for new experiences. And so I guess the Enterprise is something new and exciting. So it makes sense.
I just find it strange that I've never heard of this actor before in my whole life. And this just everybody else seems to know.
Carol
Well,
Kane?
you have to watch.
You should have watched Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt because she was like the crazy landlady for 4 seasons, and she's fantastic.
Yeah.
Taxi?
Plus,
You never
like his
watched
wife from
Taxi?
Taxi. Oh yeah, well you want Taxi?
Lucas only watches Star Trek. That's it.
I only
Wait.
watched one show. Called
You've
Star
seen-
Trek. What?
You've seen The Princess Bride, right?
I did at some point in my life.
Yeah. She's Billy Crystal's
Under-
wife. She's like, I'm not a witch, I'm your wife.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'll have to go back.
There
Lucas
you
like,
go.
yeah,
There,
yeah,
perfect.
I kind of.
You're totally lying. You don't remember any of that. You're just
No,
like, I don't want
considering
to
things.
talk about this anymore.
Yeah. let's move on and talk about John Wick. John Wick 4. And also known as Nurse Chapel in... well, first of all, let's talk about Mbenga and this whole backstory where he was part of the Klingon War.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like a hardened veteran. He's got some PTSD. He's angry. Kind of reminds me of O'Brien and The Wounded.
Mm-hmm.
He's got holding a little grudge. What did we think about that development?
I personally think that there was a lot more interesting story to tell with his daughter, and I really wish they'd stuck with that with him and Kid Harry Dad on and had him get caught by Starfleet and have like an ethical drama. Maybe he'd be in the courtroom instead of number one for his violations of patient rights or whatever, or the ethics of what he was doing. I wanted to see more about that because I thought that was a really interesting storyline, and then they just kind of wrapped it up super quick and kind of unsatisfying. But yeah, now they feel like they got to rush him into another story, and now suddenly he's a Klingon, he's a war vet, and Chapel's a war vet, and yeah, it seemed that they just kind of plopped that on us. And the fight scene, I thought it was cool at first, and then and then more and more Klingons kept coming out, and I'm like, oh, this is still going for what it was.
I love watching Jenny's expression while you guys are talking.
Well,
like she's like
and then-
compiling all the rebuttals. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is gonna be good.
Well,
This is gonna be
and
really
the fact that they went from, how many groups of Klingons come running out to do fisticuffs with them before they realize, hey, we should just shoot them, and then they decided to shoot at them because it seems it took them a while to just bring out the phasers and like, okay, we're not really winning this hand to hand. So
Okay, so now Jenny's gonna tell you why you're wrong. And go.
yes, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to
Honestly, I think it's really interesting. Actually, both of what you're saying, I think they're walking kind of a really weird line with a 10 episode season with standalone episodes and trying to get us to know these characters, world build, give people backstories, and also make good episodes that are entertaining to watch. I am very interested in that backstory. Like I really like the fact that they've actually even addressed the fact that the Klingon War happened, because there's been so little, talked about it, and I appreciate the fact that a couple of the characters, have been involved in it. And I think also Ortega's may have been as well. I think that was So I like that. But there's so much that they introduced just in that concept that they're both veterans. They both know about this super soldier serum stuff. Like Chapel wasn't surprised. So did everybody have it? Like, what's the backstory on that? I don't know. I feel like they've bitten off a very big bite with just that little bit that they introduced there, and I'm concerned about them. About it paying off through the season, because there's so much to do and so little time.
Are they going to be able to chew this hamburger?
Right, exactly.
And digest it.
Yeah, because there's definitely stuff to talk about with that. Like, if there was this, obviously there was this like drug or whatever, but the implications of that and the fact that he has it, and are we getting a backstory about that, or is it going to be more about the fact that he's still got it? Is he addicted to it? Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm having a good time.
Like,
I'm at a party, drinking my beer, my little Starkey beer. I'm not reading the ingredients on the side to see what's gonna make me sick or what's gonna be bad for me. Like,
Well,
I'm just gonna read. I'm just gonna drink my beer and have a good time. Maybe play some
But
pool.
I think this is actually probably not going to go anywhere, because I feel like they wrapped up the whole plot in this episode, because I think the overarching story in this season is going to be the Gorn, because that was like kind of indicated at the end that there's he saved us from fighting a war on two fronts, with the Klingons and the Gorn. So I think that this is just kind of one and done myself. I think that they went in, they found out that there was this plot to have a fake Federation ship instigate or reignite the war with the Klingons. Spock and the crew stopped it. They got a little pat on the back. We'll forgive you for stealing the Enterprise since you prevented this reignition of the war. And then they're just going on their merry way. I don't know if it's actually gonna be followed up on. I think this might be a self-contained story.
It's just a lot of it. It's a lot of loose threads for a self-contained But yes, you're right. You're right. Assuming
Yeah,
that
because
this...
they destroyed their fake starship. they had blood wine celebrated with the Klingons for their thank you for revealing the plot, and you're now our brother Spock. Let's have a drinking party, and then they're off to their next adventure.
I'm really happy you brought that up, Alan, because that's the next thing I want to talk about is the Klingons. So the Klingons are back to their original, not original appearance, but their original appearance after that. They're back to the Berman era original series bumps in the hair. So how do we feel about that? I really want to hear from Namir.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. It's kind of safe. I liked the Discovery Klingons. I'm probably in the minority. I thought they were kind of cool, Yeah. Yeah, they were doing something interesting with them. They had a kind of a distinct and kind of terrifying culture, and which was amazing. Like they were kind of doing a lot of world building there, which felt fresh and new. Like my favorite scene from the either the first or the second episode of Discovery was when Burnham is on the hull outside of the Klingon ship. She's on the hull, and she realizes that they have all like the dead Klingons, they're war dead, strapped to the hull. That was awesome. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting and new. And then everyone was like, that's interesting and new. We don't want to do that. And then they pulled it all back. So I'm kind of missing it. Right now we're just got like the Klingons that we know and kind of love, I guess, and they feel very comfortable. But
wait, hold on. Are you saying there's something from Star Trek Discovery that you are enjoying and liking more than Strange?
And it's the Klingons.
It's weird. I know. I can't explain it. I really can't. I've exactly. Yeah, those darn fans. But I really liked them. And
the fans?
Now it's no, not the fans. The Klingons. Definitely not the fans. But I kind of miss it. Like it's fine. It's fine. It's just how much more can you do with them, right? Like what else can you do? Nothing. It's just the Klingons. At least at least bring back like the non the original series Klingons, the ones without the bumpy foreheads, and then try and do something with that. That would have been fun, but nope.
Okay.
It's interesting because I agree with you that the Klingons in Discovery, the way that they did it, I like there was some really cool stuff there. I felt like I would have. The way that the Klingons were in Discovery, and I know this is completely off topic, but I felt like I almost wanted that to be like 500 years earlier. You know what I mean? Like earlier in the development of the Klingon culture, or the species itself. Because the idea of those Klingons being 10 years away from goatees and flatness, it's anyway, that's beside the point. These ones, I'm happy to see them. I feel like we're not going to see much more of them. I kind of feel like this is probably it. So it was just like, hey, we're back, and that's
really
it. So
I
don't know. Yeah,
that's what I feel too. I feel like it's going to be the Gorn are going to be the big heavy in this season. It's not going to be the Klingons. I do feel like this is our Klingon episode, and then we're just moving on.
Like if we had 20 episodes, we would see them again. But I feel like there's so little time.
Yeah,
there's only 8 more.
Okay, I just have 3 things to say.
There's only 8 more episodes. Like you can't do a lot. Like you need an episode to explain the Mbenga Nurse Chapel Klingon War super soldier thing, right? So I am worried too that they're not gonna that's it, right? Like that's all they're gonna do with it. And
but
it is interesting enough
that there's a season 3 that they're in the middle of filming.
It's true, or
yeah,
they will be
fair.
as soon as they
unless they get sold to Netflix, then who knows what's gonna happen.
I just have 3 things to say about the Klingons, and that's Tachba, Tachbe, Deutsch, Joy, Chu.
He's gonna keep trotting out those Star Trek 3
perfect.
I know.
quotes.
It's been like 2 weeks of this. I mean,
Yeah.
Listen,
Toy. I don't have
if you spoke Klingon, you would know that I'm referencing more than Star Trek 3.
I would like the ship to go. Now.
The catchphrase for Spock saying, "Make the ship go," which I thought was amazing.
That was
I
super
agree.
cringy.
See, Jenny and I are on the same page.
Because
you,
I don't.
Jenny.
Spock isn't. There's no ego there in terms of like I'm gonna say the cool thing or I'm gonna say the right thing. He's just I want the ship to go. Just do it. You know.
Just do it now.
But he's not gonna be a jerk about it because he's a Vulcan.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's the one thing we haven't talked about. So there's a sort of a subplot in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
About him, kind of like he's had too many feelings and now he can't put the genie back in the bottle or the.
I think it's an interesting exploration of that. You know, I mean, Spock is half human, so.
I mean, it's fine. Like in the cage, he smiles and
Yeah.
he's like the women, you know. He emotionally reacts, and so they're just kind of playing that up that he's kind of like a juvenile a bit and still developing his emotional control, and they're kind of, you know, they're using the cage as a jumping off point to make Spock, you know, have an emotional arc, you know, wrestling with his
It's
control.
really I feel like it's like the only way, the only
fine.
place for the character to grow because it's, you know, he's such a popular character. He's been explored so much, and we did the whole Kulinar, you know, thing where he's trying to purge emotion, and then he comes full circle and he realizes, you know, he really needs his feelings, and so we kind of did sort of that part of the exploration, but we haven't seen the other part of the exploration, which is I'm going to go and have some feelings, and especially because Cybok is back.
Oh right.
Oh,
All right. Okay.
So this
Actually,
gonna be so
yeah.
good. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
He's gonna go see Cybok. He's gonna go see Cybok and be like, he's gonna be like, help me, Cybok. Cybok's gonna be like, let me show you how we can use your passion. And let's go meet God.
I'll show you how to do the salsa dance.
It's called Vulcan salsa.
Yeah, given the fact that we know that Cybok is going to show up, that actually is a really good point. I think that gives this somewhere to go.
Yeah, I agree, and that's kind of what I was worried about. I didn't find it that interesting because that's always kind of what they do with Spock. It's like, you know, he's always got that battle between his emotions and being a Vulcan. So I was like, okay, well, they're just doing the same thing over again. But, you know, if he has to kind of, you know, go head to head with his half brother, then, you know, that makes it kind of interesting. I think Ethan Peck does a great job. I think he does a really fantastic job with Spock and kind of separating those two things out, where he's like trying to fight his emotions. You really see it on his face. So he's doing it really well. And you know, you're right. Like, there's nowhere else for that character, for Spock to go, right? Otherwise he's just kind of like, I don't know, bland. There's nothing else there. But you know, like, I always wish that they're a little bit more subtle about these things, but you know, they only have 10 episodes. I don't think they can afford to be subtle. So they're just like, let's just throw it all on the table and, you know, make him super emotional. Which is fine.
Make this show go.
Make the show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so do we want to do our ratings for episode 1 now, or do we want to do the ratings all together at the end?
Oh, let's do it now. What do you guys think? I think we should just do it now.
Let's just
Do it now.
listen to Namir. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with Namir.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5. I thought it was okay. There's a lot of things that bothered me about the episode. I didn't think it really hung together very well. One of the things that really annoyed me was La'an kind of didn't have anything to do, and she really, like, the last episode of last season, she was like, I'm gone, you're never gonna see me again, kind of thing. She was off on it, and then she was just back again, you know, which was a little bit strange.
I think her plan was always just to help that girl find her home and then come back.
Yeah, I
don't
know,
think she
but the
was planning
way
on
they
leaving Starfleet.
No, I know, but the way they set it up.
Let's go crazy here. Just ratings. That's all we're doing.
Okay, all right, okay, fine. So yeah, it's a 5 for all the previously mentioned reasons.
Right. I give your rating a 2. Let's go to Alan.
I think you could do that.
This one I probably, out of all the episodes I've seen so far, Strange New Worlds, this one was actually probably my least favorite. It was still fine, like I still enjoyed it, but
Better than Code of Honor.
Yeah, we're not. I'm just comparing it in Strange New Worlds in the 11 or 12 episodes we've seen now, and so it was fine. I had a good time, but I also had some logical problems with it, and yeah, some stuff didn't really float well with me. So I'll probably give this one a 6 out of 10.
So sad. Okay, Jenny.
I love a caper. I'll give it a solid 8.5.
8.5. Where are you gonna go? There's nowhere else to go. You're at 8.5 now.
It was fun. I had fun. I don't expect explanations for things when there's so little time, and I know they're standalone episodes.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I will give it a solid 7 because I want to give it room for even better episodes. But 7 for me is a good time. 7 to me is I had a couple of beers and I didn't get into a fight, and then I get home and.
Is that a problem for you?
Yeah, where is this analogy going?
Yeah. I guarantee Lucas gets into no fights, and if he did, he would not win them.
3 out of 10 times that he goes out.
But I'm just, it's like a good time. I'm just comparing it to a good time.
You're a lover, not a fighter.
I don't know where this is going. Okay, that's it for episode 1. Let's go right into episode 2, where we do a court-martial episode, very much like the episode Court Martial, and they get to wear the same little court-martial uniforms. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about our first impressions. Once again, let's start with Jenny.
First impressions. I very much enjoyed this episode. Some of your faces. I really enjoyed.
This is what her faces just look like regularly. I don't know why it's funny now.
The episode. Stakes felt big-ish. Even though we kind of have an idea what's going to happen, but it's still the way that it was done was, I thought, very nicely done. I thought there was a lot of really great character work on a lot of fronts, and those uniforms were sick. They looked so good.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Costuming.
Namir, now your turn to completely destroy Jenny's.
No. I liked the episode. I did. I think they should have started the season with this episode, and it annoys me that they didn't.
I agree.
That. Yeah, it felt weird, and they could have just gone into this this pretty good episode. I have problems with it, but I think it's because it needed more time. I have notes, I have suggestions how they, I'll get on the phone with them and be like, you should have done this. But, ultimately it was a pretty good episode. And it felt like a good resolution to that storyline. I think the comparison is always gonna be, the Measure of a Man episode. You're comparing these two. And I think that episode was better and it was sort of implemented better, but this was pretty good.
Okay, Alan.
Yeah, I agree. With what you said, this should have been the premiere. Why have a cliffhanger where she gets arrested if you're not going to follow it up with the premiere? I just think they didn't have the balls to do a talkie episode as a premiere, and they needed something slam bang, pew pew pew, explosions, killing.
I think it was scheduling.
I think the network or the whoever makes the decision probably said, we need something exciting to come out of the gate with. You can't just talk.
They could have done a prison break. They could have done a prison break. They stole the Enterprise and then go and break out of prison.
But anyway, I love this episode. It felt like classic Star Trek. It was like I told Lucas earlier. It was the Star Trekiest Star Trek I've seen in any of the new shows right now. So I like the fact that they didn't fill it up with a bunch of, like, I thought for sure they were gonna just do flashbacks and have battles, just to break up the talking, and I'm like, wow, they actually stuck with just the characters in a room talking about the issues, and I appreciated that, because I thought for sure they were just gonna try to break up the boredom of talking with a bunch of foolishness and flashbacks and things. But I'm like, oh no, they actually just talked. It just told their stories, and it felt very, very original series. And where the characters are doing the work and the actors doing the work, and they're not just showing us a bunch of CGI. So I it felt like a warm hug. Like this is like classic Star Trek. So I was very happy.
I like this episode a lot. I can tell.
I did.
I thought this episode was stupid.
Really?
But I had a good time. So I don't really have any complaints per se, but I will complain about some things. Okay, so I mean we sort of talked already.
Don't move on to the next thing. Complain about the things.
No, but I'm going to complain about them as we get to them.
Oh, I see. In series, I understand.
Yeah. So I guess we just covered the fact that it's weird that the end of the season 1 cliffhanger, if you want to call it that, was her getting arrested. And so it's a little weird that this is now the second episode, but I guess sort of as a point of departure, what this show really felt like was they were trying to do Measure of a Man. We're going to talk about rights, and we're going to draw comparisons with race and sexual orientation and gender and equality, and we're going to bring it into, we're going to use genetically engineered people as a way to talk about those issues, which I think that works really well in Measure of a Man, but in this case I thought it was a misstep, because I don't feel the same way about genetically engineered people than I feel about robots, and metaphorically speaking. So but what do you guys think? What do you guys think about using first of all, that the episode was sort of talking about these real world issues, and at the same time using Una's kind of situation as a metaphor. Let's talk to I'm going to ask Jenny first, because you look like you're pensive.
I think especially coming off the first couple of seasons, or I guess the first season really of Picard, that sort of the idea of the synths and the that I feel like my brain was sort of queued up for it, so I didn't reject it, because I was sort of, I don't know, I was like, oh, of course we're talking about this. I don't know. I think I disagree with you. I don't know.
I'm Siskel and you're Ebert.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that. Aside from our time with Bashir on Deep Space Nine, we haven't really delved into. We've talked a lot about the eugenics wars and Khan and all of that, but in terms of how genetically modified people, how that is a part or not of Starfleet and the Federation, I think it's an interesting conversation in terms of that. I liked hearing about the Illyrian experience. And again, that kind of goes into, I'm always very interested to see the parts of the Federation and the Star Trek universe that aren't like perfect, because I think that's always I believe that the Star Trek universe is about working constantly towards something better as opposed to it just being perfect all the time. So I like the whole utopia thing. I don't know, did I talk about this before? I have a real problem with the whole utopia thing. So I I don't believe utopias are possible. So it's all about working towards an ideal. So I like when that idea that everything is perfect is challenged. There
we go.
Okay.
Okay, now I want to hear from Namir.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea because like they tell us it's a utopia, but it almost never is, right? Like it's never a utopia, right? And I think that I like the episode, but I almost wish that the episode had gone further. Like I wish that they had kind of taken a couple of risks, because you don't ever really get a sense that Una is ever in any real danger, right? You never get the sense that she's actually going to be put away for 20 years, right? And that's never going to happen, right? With The Measure of a Man, you somehow, like, they don't have those scenes, but you still get that feeling that it's a larger issue.
Like something big happened.
Yeah,
well, because
like something big happened.
Yeah, the stakes with Data was that he's going to be disassembled. Like, he's going to basically die. They're going to chop him into little pieces, and there'll be no more Data. And that's a totally different thing than we're going to lock her away for 20 years because we know that's not going to happen. Like, and face it, we don't really care if people go to jail, but we care if people die,
No, I mean, I guess we always knew that, she's going to get off somehow, but you don't really know how that's going to come about. And really, at the end of it, it didn't really resolve the overall issues. People are still going to be persecuted. People are still going to be unfairly, treated for being genetically engineered. The only way she got off was basically a technicality.
And so I have a question, and I'm not clear on where legally the augments sit, right? Like, because it sounds like it's not illegal to be an augmented person, right? Like, you can still live in society, you can still, do whatever, but you just can't join Starfleet. Like, they just can't be officers in Starfleet.
The problem is the whole thing is a bad idea, and this is what the
Lucas is like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, you can't answer the question by just like dismissing the entire the entire thing.
Well, that's what. But you're looking for you want it to make sense. You think that the kind of the problem of it is that you're not really understanding like what are the rules in the society and that kind of stuff. And what I'm saying is that is the problem. You're correct, but the reason that that's the problem is that from a writing point of view, it's just dumb. And okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So this is my theory. My theory is that the reason that genetically engineered people are illegal or banned is that when they wrote the show, in the whenever it was in the 80s or the 60s, whenever this came up, they knew that genetically engineering was a thing, and so people in the future were gonna be possibly genetically engineered, but they didn't want to deal with a bunch of characters that had superpowers and whatever, because that's not what the show is. So they had to find a way to make it so, how do we nullify this thing that people in the 20th century know that there's genetic engineering, and we have a show in the future, and how do we make our characters not be a bunch of like X-Men basically? And so they said, well, we'll just make it like a ban, and then we'll just decide that's the thing, and then I don't even think that the whole eugenics wars was even designed for that. I think it was just happened to work well with what they needed. And so then it's like the Klingon foreheads. Just leave it alone. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to like make episodes about it. And and let's go to trial to see if Worf should have his forehead or not. And do you know what I mean? And this is the same thing. They're going, well, let's just make a meal out of this thing. And I just don't think it's something that you can make a meal out of. And this is what my problem is.
Not you and your food analogies again. It was like all last year. Like, it was a good meal. No, I mean, I can't say that I agree, because I mean, well, they're basically saying now the eugenics war is hand in hand with World War III. I mean, so there's like billions of people, millions of people were killed. They had the whole planet has a legitimate fear of genetic engineering and what that can bring on. So they banned it. You know, they don't. It's just a blanket ban. You know, it's like you might want to genetically engineer a kid because they're special needs like Julian Bashir, and you want to make them smart or whatever. There's those noble goals, but it's like for every one of those, we're gonna get somebody who's like, I want to create a genetic Superman I want to take over the world. I want to be the most powerful human. So I think that's what's your problem with having laws against that sort of thing.
I think it's interesting that that it is so specifically a historically Earth problem, but that the Federation as a whole has just adopted this policy as like across the board, and there's sort of not a lot of explanation in the rest of the universe for why, other than maybe everyone else was like, wow, that really was bad on Earth, you guys. Like, wow, did you see what happened on Earth? That was crazy. We definitely don't want that to happen anywhere else. So I don't know. I like even during the trial, I was thinking about that. Watching this episode, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of like an Earth thing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, they were one of the founding members of the Federation. Like, they're like a core, probably policymaker in the early days. And it probably just maybe the Vulcans and the Andorians were like, yeah, we don't like genetic engineering either. And the Tellarites were like, well, we're kind of okay with it. No, you're outvoted.
Right.
Because there's like, what, 5 of them to start the whole thing off? So
wait, I just thought of something. I just thought of something.
The...
Sorry, it's just a quick question. So La'an is a descendant of Khan, right? So she's a descendant of Khan Noonien Singh.
I had this question too. I know where you're going with this.
Oh, so he was augmented genetically, which means that he passes on his genetic augmentations to his kids. So doesn't that get to La'an?
You would think. That's what I was wondering too. I'm like, isn't she genetically engineered?
Yeah. So isn't she genetically engineered then?
I have a better question. He left Earth.
Okay.
He
we'll just
left
park
Earth.
my question for something better.
No, you're going to be included in this question. This is an answer to your question with a question.
Oh, fair enough.
So, in 1996, he leaves Earth. He leaves Earth with all his descendants. The only babies he had were with the babies with Marlena, whatever her name is, and on the SETI Alpha 5 or whatever. So that's it. So and then everybody died. They all died, right? They all died on the Reliant. There were no survivors. They all died down on the planet. So where is she from? How is she related to him?
Well, was he genetically altered as a baby, or was he like a man that got genetically altered and he'd been
I think from a
poking around?
From a baby gray area, I guess.
My
like what
impression
did what did he do on Earth before he left?
So I guess La'an might be the descendant of his ungenetically engineered younger brother or something.
He was genetically engineered from. He was a test tube. He was like a test tube baby. He was genetically engineered from birth, and so yes, you're right, Jenny. He could have had another wife or a special friend, and
No, but either way, if he was genetically engineered from birth, he would pass on those genes.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. But the answer is, I think, that it's a reboot. Right, so it's like all of these. The answer is a reboot, right? So it's like all of these little details don't matter because you can't make all of it make sense. There's no way you can tie all this stuff together that in a way that makes logical sense.
And if I could add, Mr. Namir, that also it's just really bad writing to have a ban on a total thing. The same thing they did in Picard. They suddenly decided out of the blue, out of nowhere, that all Romulan society decided that robots were bad, and it just makes for like boring writing. I'm so bored by that whole problem, and it's completely unenforceable. Like it's just like it doesn't make any sense, you know.
You're very inconsistent. I
Yes,
don't
'cause
know
there's plenty of
how you
machine
can hate
cultures
this
out there.
episode, but like the first one. I just don't. And based on what makes sense and what doesn't, I just don't get it.
I said I had a good time. I had a good time. I watched the episode. I had a good time.
You know what? I think we should just assume that you're going to have a good time, no matter what happens, with every episode.
That means it's almost like an automatic 7 for each episode at the minimum.
Listen, we're talking about a show that made going to a planet where your dreams could come true a death penalty. You know, that was really heavy-handed. So, and that's going back to the origins of the whole thing. So,
I guess.
you know, you just got to go with it.
Okay.
That's Alan's excuse for anything. You just gotta go with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
I thought it was really well done. There's a lot of good arguments. I like the prosecutor character.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure.
Let's talk about her. That's what I want to talk about next. Let's talk about Mira, the prosecutor. Not the prosecutor, the defense. You're talking about the defense.
Yes,
Is it
sorry.
I thought she was
Nira
great.
or Nira?
It
Nira.
was like
With
Nira.
an M. With an M? Yes.
I think it has an N.
No, with an N.
As in.
Nira.
Nira.
Are we saying no? Are we saying Mo?
Okay, how much time are we going to
Saying
spend on the
no.
pronunciation of his name? It's just a space name.
Nira.
Come on.
Someone
Una's
didn't do
childhood
phonics in
friend.
school.
Are we like N like Namir? Or M?
No,
like
it's
Montreal?
it's M like Mamir.
It's an M, so it's Mira. Okay. What do we think about this character? I thought she was great, by the way.
I did think she was great. Yeah, it was, and she did a great job as the defense attorney. So, I didn't quite understand what the animosity was, like why she was reluctant to help Una, or there was some sort of.
I think they're lovers. Ex-lovers.
Oh yeah. There was
Agreed.
there was a little hand touching and stuff. Yeah, there's some implication there, but it just seemed like oh she had a change of heart real quick. I guess Pike just laid on the charm there, and she's like, okay, I guess we're going.
The other thing missing for me was something going behind Una and flipping her off switch and taking her off her arm. That would have been good.
It was a real missed opportunity, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since she's not a robot, so
Yeah.
like ripping off her arm, blood everywhere.
I thought it was interesting too.
difficult
Like
to explain.
I guess the Illyrians, must have a variety of genetic modifications, because she says like some people can pass, and then others can't.
And
So,
some people have two heads. Some people have two heads.
Yeah.
Well, and that would have been really cool to see, right? Like, because they go to the Illyrian planet, but they just all look like humans,
Yeah.
right? Like they don't look genetically different in any way. So, I think that's kind of like the adding flavor to the whole thing and the world building that's kind of missing, right? So, I never really got why the prejudice. Like I mentioned before, I still don't understand why the prejudice exists, and that to me is a bit fundamental to making this whole episode work. You just kind of have to accept it, but I'd have an easier time kind of believing it if it was demonstrated on screen, and it wasn't.
I thought I did a perfect explanation as to why it didn't make any sense. Now you don't have to
And
wonder anymore.
I mean, and I guess I also appreciated in this episode too, just the sense of family amongst the ensemble, like how they all rally around her. Like Spock had a nice moment where it was like, oh, I sensed she was hiding something. It's like her love of Gilbert and Sullivan. It's like there's nice little moments like that, and like Mabanga says that she, how much integrity she has, basically referencing the fact that he shared a secret about the sick daughter in the transporter, and she supported his work, and kept his secret. So it was nice to see all that camaraderie amongst that. It felt like there's a nice family feel to that ensemble that I don't feel when I'm watching like Discovery or anything like that. Like I don't feel like that ship is as much even though they say, oh, we're a family, but I don't feel it as much as I'm feeling it in this show.
I think I find those things cringy. I think
you like the ship will go now, that really cringy stupid comedy moment when they're supposed to be stealing a ship and then they just stop to have a joke. You love that, but you don't like these nice character moments in this courtroom.
This is the episode where all the friendships end. I can feel it right now.
Oh my god.
No, but I felt like I think that because I like the crew of the ship being a family as a metaphor, and when you use it as a metaphor, it's beautiful. But Kirk and Picard don't go around going, we are a family, but then when you start like voicing it, it then becomes kind of...
I don't think they voiced it in this. It was just the way they were like rallying around her. They didn't say we're a family, but they're just the things.
No, I think they said that there was somebody who said the word family, because that's what threw me off. I was like, nah, don't talk about family. It's just weird. It's a workplace.
It's a workplace where you live.
Some people like the people they work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can all be friends. Don't bring family into it. I feel like what was missing was a good Picard speech, personally. That would have taken it up a notch for me. But no Picard speech.
There's no Picard speech, and I didn't quite buy the reasoning. Like the legal argument across the whole thing was pretty shaky. I don't.
Yeah, like why bring up something like this if then you're not going to resolve it with the issues? If you're just going to resolve it with a thing over here, which is a technicality.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just change everything with a 3-person tribunal. Like, they're probably going to have to revisit this and have a committee and some research and studies and everything takes time and red tape and bureaucracy to get any sort of actual change in government or constitution or whatever.
It's a fictional show. You could do whatever you want. What are you talking about?
Oh, wait a minute. No, you don't get to say that after complaining about the military not chasing the ship.
You want to say that Star Trek is like, it's the best one. It's like they're focusing on the military and organizational aspects of it. I'm like, well, that's the reality of lawmaking. It's like it has to go through all these changes. It has to go through the Senate and the House and blah 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 blah.
I feel like you're pointing out the fundamental flaw of the episode, which is not really the fault of anybody or anything like that, but it's just, there's been so many courtroom dramas and so many courtroom shows, even on Star Trek. It's been done to death. And so you're just doing a thing you've done 100 times before. It's really hard to like make it interesting and fresh. And so that was my problem from the beginning with the show. I'm like, well, the show is not going to be great because it's just going to be all the same stuff that always happens. There's always like the lawyer that doesn't want to take the case and needs to be convinced, and there's a conflict between the thing, and then there's going to be like, I object, sustained. You can't handle the truth. That's just what it's going to be. And at the end, they're going to just be like, and I win. Ha. There was a technicality.
It was weird that there was like no mention of Spock stealing Pike's ship. Like Pike was back with his crew, and they were doing. It was like there's like it's like, hey Spock, what happened? And it was like, why did you steal the ship? What was all that about? It's like, oh, and La'an's back. I'm like, oh, where you been? How you been doing? Like there was none of that at all. Like,
that's again. It's that like. We've got 10 episodes and we've decided that they're all going to be standalone episodes. So how do you do that without doing that?
Well, they troubled themselves to make a scene last week where he said, okay, I'm packing up to go meet this attorney across the galaxy. But then this week they didn't have a little scene saying, it's like, oh, you really dodged a bullet there. You could have you drummed out the Starfleet there for stealing my ship. But no, they don't even mention the starship theft at all. It's like everything's just hunky dory.
That's what I love about Star Trek. It doesn't matter what happens during the episode. By the end of the episode, it's just the way it was at the beginning of the episode. Okay. Unless there's something else, I'm gonna go right to the ratings of episode 2. Ad Astra, blah 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 is a horrible title. Okay, so let's start with Jenny.
I didn't have as much fun this time, but I really liked it. Which gets into that question of like, how do you start with an 8? And so I'm honestly not sure where to put it. I mean, I mean, there was some really nice writing. There was, in terms of like the speeches, and I don't know, like a 7, but yeah. You're right. I totally screwed up starting with an 8 in the last episode. Okay, you know what? I'm doing a retroactive switch of the last one to 7, and this one's an 8 now. There we go.
It's an 8. This one's better than the last episode.
I think it's a better episode, but okay, this is a better episode, but I had more fun.
Listen, this is your life. You should do whatever you want with your life, but I think if you had a good time in the other episode, that should be higher rated.
I think she sounds like she's afraid to hurt Star Trek's feelings.
That's usually your job, Alan.
I cover this honestly. Yeah. Okay, all right, okay. I stay, okay. Number 1 was 8, this is a 7.
Okay, great. But the number 1 was 8.5. I just want to point that out.
Oh,
okay.
Well, then I'll give this a 7.5 for the costumes.
Okay, there we go. Okay, Namir.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it much better than the other one. What did I give the other one, a 5? I did, yeah. Okay, I'm going to give this one a 6 because I want to give myself space to add better episodes with better ratings. I got to give myself a little bit of a...
Why do you want to do that? You hate all these shows.
I don't hate them.
You never got to a 10 last year. Just you can
no,
just
there's no... Because,
there's no room. What room?
No, a 10 is like sacred. It's like a sacred 10.
The closest he got last year, I think, was what, Memento Mori, where with the door in the submarine battle. And I think you only gave that like what, 7.5.
No, I gave that at least an 8. That was a good episode. I gave it an 8 for sure. Yeah. But that was definitely the high water mark. There's nothing better than that episode in this show for me. That was an awesome episode. So this is definitely a 7.
Namir's 8 is like an Alan 11. Okay,
7.
Alan, I'd love to hear from you.
Would you? Well, here you go. I love this one. I thought it was a classic Trek. I mean, we didn't talk about really the sets either, but I love the whole aesthetic. I think that they really brought that TOS aesthetic, and it still works even in 2023. So I appreciate all the style visually of this, and again, the speeches, the writing. I was really engaged the whole time watching it. And I love Star Trek when it confronts a moral quandary. Those are some of my favorite episodes. So I would give this one, I feel like I'm going to give this one a 9. I really enjoyed this one. I think it was like
nice.
top tier Star Trek. And especially coming from the stuff we've seen in the recent years, like this is probably some of the best Star Trek I've seen out of the new crop. Because this is what I want to see. I want to see them do a classic type story, and I feel like they feel like we're like an ADHD society where we can't sit and watch some people talk their problems out without explosions and CGI monsters and all this. So I appreciate yes, they actually had the balls to just talk it out, and not and not just say, oh, the viewers are probably getting bored. Let's throw in some foolishness. So I like the classic Trek feel. It felt really good. Warm hug. Had a good time. 9 out of 10.
It was actually a warm hug in the episode, so
I know
that probably got an extra point just for the warm hug.
I know.
Yes,
I
love
love
that had a warm hug. Yeah.
Pike's so great.
I feel like you secretly want him to be your dad. He's just gonna maybe he'll just be my dad.
I wish. Yes, I wish. Yes, I wish Pike was in my
He
life.
could, I wish he could be all our guys. Yes, I'm going to give this episode a 7 because I just, I had a good time. There was a lot of dumb things about it, but I had a good time. And I'll tell you what, the biggest problem for me was this idea of using it as a metaphor for, sexism or racism or these prejudice against people. Is that when those prejudices happen, it's because that's the way the person is, and there's nothing wrong with the way the person is. That's how they are naturally. But a genetically engineered person is not that way naturally. So I thought it was a little weird that was their comparison thing. That it could have been stronger. But no, that's it. But I love the costumes and everything else.
I just remembered one thing that I really liked. I love that they used the old memory cartridges in that machine, the clear memory cartridges, and you hear them put it in, and there's a little chunk. It's like chunk. It's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but it's
I know it.
It's cool.
I enjoyed too. They had the computer reciting, because it kind of reminded me of the original series where the computer working, and then it was like Captain Kirk, Starfleet, serial number, blah, blah. And it was they had, and because they're basically reciting a lot of April's adventures too. It's cool to hear some of Captain April's Prime Directive breaking adventures.
That was awesome, actually. I like that a lot.
It's cool to get that. Yeah, I like that backstory of his command.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that they conveniently forgot that there's a little truth monitor that they put their hands on, and they have to tell the truth, otherwise the computer knows that they're telling a lie? That's a whole thing, but they just pretended
right.
and they even had their hand on it. Did you guys see that there was it was happening, but it was just that's for the people who know, but we're not going to talk about that because
I thought that was the Space Bible or something, where they put their hand in the Bible and swear to tell the truth.
No, I don't think they forgot about it. I think there's a moment where one of the prosecutors is like, "May I remind you, you're under oath," and they cut to Una's hand on the thing. So it's clearly being implied that thing tells us, is a lie detector.
And I remind her that she does not want to perjure herself.
So you're wrong.
Space Bible.
On that note, we're going to wrap it up. This is our reviews of episode 1 and 2. We'll be back next week to do episode 3, or maybe episode 3 and 4 together. That's it. That's all I got, man. You guys need to wrap this up because
we need a closing joke.
I already have the closing joke is when Namir says, "I have a positive thing to say," and then that's when we end it.
But then nobody gets to hear my positive thing.